like to call this Planning Commission meeting to order Wednesday, May the 22nd. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairwoman Amanda Denmark.
Here.
Vice Chairman Charlie Wetmore.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Brock.
Here.
Commissioner Rich Delport.
Here.
Commissioner Lydia DePaul.
Here.
Commissioner Jim Flynn.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Stewart.
Notice regarding adjournment. The Planning Commission will not hear new items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or a special meeting date as determined by the commission members. May I have an adoption of the minutes for April the 24th?
Motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Public comments. Are there any public comments for tonight? If you haven't filled out a form for public comment and you have one, please do so now. The items, if you'd like us to go ahead and hear your public comment and it's relating to a project that's on the agenda, you can either do that now or you can wait till that project. And so I will call for public comment during that specific project. So if you have any additional public comments, then we will proceed.
Fred Wallace.
Right here.
Fred Wallace.
Okay, then we'll just keep continuing. We have no old business. Oh wait, we have adoption of minutes. I completely went out of order. Okay, never mind. I was thinking ahead. New business, consideration of ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton's comprehensive plan. This is a public hearing. Charlotte goes first, or I go first? Okay, so I'm calling once for comment, calling twice, third and final call. No public comment? Okay, Charlotte.
Thank you. This item may look familiar. We had a workshop on it last month. This is to incorporate a housing impact analysis into our comprehensive plan. And let's see, this is not advancing. There we go. The purpose of this is related to Act 57. This is a state law that was passed last year to allow the town to use a portion of its accommodations tax to be used for the development of workforce housing. According to the state law, that's anywhere from 30 to 120% of the county's AMI, which this year is approximately $106,000. It's based on the number of people within the household. In order to obtain this funding, we have to do a housing analysis. I believe Hilton Head is the first in the state to pursue this. And we have used some of their information for our own analysis, which has been extremely helpful. Should this pass by town council, we think we can use approximately $150,000 a year to be applied for various workforce housing efforts. It includes being able to assist profit and nonprofit organizations within the community with their own workforce housing efforts, as well as to issue bonds. We have to submit this particular analysis to the Department of Revenue, as well as to the Tourism Expenditure Committee before the Town Council adopts it. And our understanding is that is simply just a submission. They're not going to review it thoroughly and make any changes to it. There's certain comprehensive plan criteria that have to be considered. Those that apply are all supportive, support the various criteria, including developing workforce and affordable housing, as well as supportive of the town's strategic plan. The next steps would be, if this is recommended tonight, to move on to the town council, would be most likely the June 11th agenda for the first reading, and then adoption of the amendment on July 9th. And here's the motion. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but if not, the motion is available.
Actually, let's pause you for 1 second. Procedural note, we noticed, actually Amanda noticed that the adoption of the agenda wasn't on the thing?
on our
We
agenda.
need to adopt the agenda, Richardson, or are we good?
No, you're not required to.
That is why I fumbled.
Just didn't want it to be a
I was
procedural
missing
issue.
something. Go ahead.
I think it's well done, Charlotte.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Great. Anybody have any comments or suggestions?
I move to recommend approval of the comprehensive plan amendment to incorporate the housing impact analysis into the town of Bluffton comprehensive plan.
Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. And the next one is consideration of ordinances related to property owned by Bryant Family LLC, consisting of a total of 2.14 acres located at 30 Davis Road. And Kevin Eichert is going to,
Yes, not Dan.
yeah.
Good evening, planning
Oh, you
commissioners.
Keep messing me up.
I'm keeping you on your toes here. So we are here this evening for an annexation request. This is a workshop, so there is no vote at the end of this. This item will come back to you at a public hearing next month, and ultimately will go to town council for a first and second reading. So also, I'd just like to identify Mr. Bryant is in the back with his wife. So they are here to help answer any questions you may have for them. So this application came to us March of this year. They are proposing the 2.14 acres, and I'll go to a map here for 100% annexation, requesting this to go into the town's residential general zoning district. Their intent is to continue to use the property. There's a mobile or manufactured home on it right now. Mr. Bryant would like to be able to use this as a family compound. He is a longtime resident of Bluffton and would like to, he owns this property and wanted to have it into the town limits. So at the May town council meeting, town council did accept the intent to annex, and they decided to forego sending this to the negotiating committee, which is why it is here this evening. We've already talked about it, the 2.4 acres, and it is on Davis Road. You can see here's the subject property. And I've got another map here, might be a little bit easier to see. So it is located off Davis Road. To the north of this property is the National Healthcare site for assisted living. It's rural homes on the side, and then you have River Ridge Academy to the east of it. So under the current zoning, I'm not going to go through all of these that are listed on here. This is in the county, it's the T2 rural classification, which allows for very limited mix of residential and commercial uses. Some of these uses you can see, a gas station, general retail, 3,500 square feet or less, a couple lodging, some other uses as well. And the proposed zoning, so we're taking out a lot of those commercial uses that you just saw. There are some limited commercial uses, and I use the term commercial use very limited in the sense of a group daycare, family daycare, golf course, public museum, things like that. While that is classified as a commercial use, it's not necessarily an intense use. Just a quick comparison, one of the concerns I think that people have is that under the current zoning, you're allowed the 1 unit for every 3 acres. This is being proposed to go to 4 units to the acre in that residential general. However, with such a small property of 2 acres, likelihood of having a total of 8 units on this 2 acres it's probably pretty difficult to design something for like that to happen. Let's see, future land use map. I've kind of highlighted it here. Again, here's the property I've highlighted with the cursor. This will need to change. The suburban living classification that we have right now limits to 3 units per acre. So with that residential general, we do have it listed as 4 units per acre by right, which kicks it up to that lifestyle housing designation. So staff has initiated a comprehensive plan amendment. That's part of this evening, and we'll work concurrently throughout this entire process. In essence, what we'll do is we will update this color to the darker orange color. I'm not even sure what color that is, so. Process-wise, went to the intent to annex in front of town council the other week. It's in front of you this evening for a workshop. We will bring this back to you for a public hearing and then a first and second reading with town council. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, Mr. Bryant is here. He's able to answer any questions from his end and go from there.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or want to hear from the applicant first?
Was there any public comment?
Kevin, I do.
Okay.
Kevin, could you put that map back up again, the one with the yellow that you were gonna change? Yeah. Is that all area in yellow Beaufort County at this point?
So, correct, yes. So this entire area, let me see if I can get to a better map that might help. Not really.
Yeah, that one's good.
This one right here, so this middle shade of green here, that's all in the county. River Ridge Academy is in the town.
And across the other road is Bluffton also, right?
Yes, so this, the purplish, pinkish color up here is in the town, so this property is contiguous based off, this red line right here represents properties that are in the town, whereas this area and this area are not in the town.
Question is, since they're Beaufort County now, have any discussions with other owners of this property to be annexed into Bluffton? My concern is that we've had some discussions about too much residential and not enough commercial in the town. Is this going to bring us more residential? Are there other members or other owners in this area trying to do the same thing?
We've had some speculations, and by speculations, that means it's a phone call of people interested in potentially annexing in for apartment complexes. So a much higher intense use than what Mr. Bryant is proposing. So we have had some, but again, we don't actively go out to pursue people. We can't do that to see if they're wanting to annex in. And besides that, I have had no other real interest in annexation in the area.
Thank you.
I'd also like to, state that the area back here, there is no sewer here. So if in the future, if Mr. Bryant were to expand on his property, and by expanding, I mean putting another house or two on there, he would have to connect to sewer. Currently, it's somewhat difficult to see, but there is through NHC, there is a sewer line that was kind of left towards the end, towards Davis Road. So a connection would have to be made at that point. Now,
If you wanted to put 4 RDUs in there, you'd have to connect to sewer?
yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I'm all right. I'd love to hear from Mr. Bryant about
Mr. Bryant, would you like to speak?
thought process and how you came by doing this and what you're thinking about, because we have some concerns, and I'd love to hear the story. And
That's right, you doing, how you doing?
Could you state your name for the
Johnny
record?
Bryant, the third native, a longtime resident native, born and raised there, Bluffton family, Hilton Head and Bluffton area, and then the low country. Your question?
well, I just okay, I'll do it this way. You're in the county now.
Yes, sir.
Have you approached the county about changing the zoning so you can?
I
build
did,
additional homes?
Ms. Hillary Austin. It's kind of difficult getting with them. She told me that she's not going to change the zoning. I told her my intent, what I'm trying to do is to help the locals. We know we have a affordable housing issue, with the locals being pushed out. So what I was trying to do is actually make something affordable for my family that's been here, a long time native, been here.
You're gonna let them all move in with you?
No, I can't do that. but I can utilize what I have. I can utilize what I have, and that's what my intent to doing is to utilize what we actually have. We went through a great deal to get this property back. It actually got lost in the tax sale. It was another family member. She deceased, didn't had all the paperwork in order. It went up. Mr. Tom Johnson, Mr. Robert Vox did their due diligence to help us get it back. So I stepped in, me and my wife. It cost a great deal of finance to get it back, to obtain it back. So now we're just trying to help back as well and keep it in their family.
Yeah, the concerns that I have are related to the bigger picture in Bluffton of taking it from 1 unit on 2 acres to potentially, and I know you can't fit 8 units on there, but potentially 8 units being allowed. Kevin, if this were annexed and zoned and coming into Bluffton, brought back home with the family, would those development units be transferable to a different property or sellable?
So this property is by right, meaning that those units are specifically for that property. This is not like a development agreement where you can buy, sell, and trade with anyone else. So any units are specifically on that property. So he's allowed 4 units to the acre, contingent upon being able to fit everything in there. So there's no giving units to someone else or accepting more units. That's it.
Okay. I appreciate that. As you know, that's a concern. We don't want to.
Absolutely. Understood.
And I mean, honestly, I don't know how the rest of Planning Commission feels. This is a workshop. We'll do it for real next month. If it wasn't somebody who was born and raised here and somebody who was looking to help out people, I wouldn't even consider it. I mean, if it was another apartment complex or something like that, but, that's all I have comment-wise, but.
Yeah, and I'm kind of where Charlie is. Mr. Bryan, I noticed that your name is very prominent in Hilton Head. Is it the same family? It seems like there's a number of properties on Hilton Head that you've done something similar. Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, we have Ed's property on Hilton Head, in which we actually trying to get all that worked out right now in the court system. We do have some down Spanish Well, Bryant Road,
Yep,
probably
Bryant Road,
what you
yeah.
relate to. Yeah, all in that area. The Youngs, Mitchells, all those are family. Bushes around here, Frazier's, everybody's family.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Charlie. If this was anybody else, I'd have a harder time. The fact that you're trying to provide some lower income housing, especially for the families or people who've had to move out of the Bluffton, that's a great idea. I'd be worried if it was going to be an outsider building.
No, it's no outsider. Like I said, we went to a great deal. Trust me when I tell you, digging even from retirement to get back. That's how the bill got, the large, attorney fees and everything. And like I said, Mr. Box and Mr. Johnson, they actually, I know them, from Bound Brown, a local guy.
And you still hired him.
Yeah.
No, he's.
They actually chipped in and when I made that call, they came to it.
They're the best with theirs property too around here, so.
I know it, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay.
Again, this is a workshop, so there's no vote necessary. And as I stated, next steps is we'll bring this back in front of you at the next Planning Commission meeting. Great.
The next item, number 3, I do need to recuse myself, so I've handed the gavel over to Charlie.
Okay, agenda item number 3, the May 1095 May River Road street naming application. A request by Workforce State of Mind LLC on behalf of the town of Bluffton for approval of a street naming application. The project consists of 2 streets for the May neighborhood with associated townhome lots. The property is identified by the tax map number in the agenda and is located at 1095 May River Road in the Residential General Zoning District.
Okay. Thank you. This is a street naming application for the May that's located at 1095 May River Road. This is a town project. It is a request by Workforce State of Mind LLC on behalf of the town of Bluffton for approval of a street naming application. The applicant is requesting approval of the following street names to be used for the development of the May, a public project located at 1095 May River Road. The 2 names are Hamilton Way, accepted with no conflict, and Smalls Court has been accepted with no conflict. The background is the public project is composed of 12 townhome units and associated parking and infrastructure, and it was approved on March 20 of 2024. street naming application was reviewed at the May 8th, 2024 meeting of the Development Review Committee. Comments indicating potential conflicts with the proposed street names were resolved prior to the meeting, and both street names were approved. Here is a picture of the layout. The primary street coming in off of May River Road would be Hamilton Way, and the back street going east-west parallel with May River Road would be Smalls Court. Planning Commission action is approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. This is the list of criteria. Staff recommendation, town staff finds that the two proposed new street names are acceptable and meet the requirements of Article 3 of the Unified Development Ordinance as stated above. Staff finds that the requirements of Section 315.3 have been met and recommends that the Planning Commission approve the following two new street names, Hamilton Way and Smalls Court. Even so, I'll open it up
Before
for
we
any
discuss, I know Mr. Delcor, Commissioner Delcor has, he wants to discuss this. Please follow our own advice in the future and bring more than the number of streets names. Because you know what happens.
And that's all, I was gonna say the same thing, because there is a Hamilton Hill, it's only 5 miles away. I understand, you know, that this is what's been approved or recommended by staff, so I'll support it, but I, like Commissioner, you know, Wetmore, really wanna make sure that in the future, what we've done before, which is great, bring an extra 1 or 2 names in case we have an issue. So that would be my strong recommendation more than anything.
Well, part of the reason for it, we know the reason is Hamilton Hill, Hamilton Way. Somebody calls the fire department, says we're on Hamilton. They don't necessarily know where to go because they called from a cell phone and there's no, you know. If we approved one, is there still time with this project to bring another name back to us for approval, or will this hold up development? Because this is a critical project.
This is a critical project. We were hoping that we get approval on both of the street names tonight.
I understand, but what happens if we only approve one? Does it hold the process up?
We would, our intent is to get the street signs out there now. It would hold up putting the street signs out, so it would hold up the development. We would have to come back in with a new street name application and route it the same way we have through DRC and the planning commission.
Well, I feel strongly about this because, as you and I both know, in our own development, we have 3 streets that start with that word anchor, and it causes lots of confusion. I'm not.
Darn development.
I'm not gonna hold this up.
I would, as an offline conversation, I'd like to have an idea of the process and what happens when we don't. Just because I'm curious.
We do. We typically ask for 3 street names per street so that there can be a pool of street names to draw from that are approved by planning commission.
Any other questions, comments, motions?
I move to recommend the approval of the following street names for the May development, Hamilton Way and Smalls Court.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ooh, I got to do that.
Item number 4, Buckwalter Town Boulevard Medical Office Building, a development plan application. A request by Cranston on behalf of TKC CCCLV LLC for approval of a preliminary development plan application. The project consists of a 3-story, 54,000 square foot medical office building with associated parking and infrastructure. Dan? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a preliminary development plan. It is Buckwalter Town Boulevard Medical Office Building. A request by Matt Randolph, Cranston Engineering, on behalf of the property owner, TKC CCCLV, for approval of a preliminary development plan. The applicant proposes the construction of a 3-story, 54,000 square foot medical office building with associated parking and infrastructure. Property is zoned Buckwalter PUD and consists of approximately 4.76 acres located within the Buckwalter Commons Phase 1 Master Plan. Here is the location of the property. It is where Bluffton Parkway and Buckwalter Parkway cross. That's actually Buckwalter Town Boulevard that it is fronting on. Here's an aerial. The application is for a preliminary development plan. The proposed development includes a 3-story, 54,000 square foot medical office building and associated parking and infrastructure. That plan includes a stub road to the north for a future connectivity road in accordance with the requirements of the Buckwalter Parkway Access Management Plan. I will point out the location of that in a second. Initially, 2 full access driveways off Buckwalter Town Boulevard will provide access to the site. They provided per the requirements, they provided a traffic study memo, and that's where they calculate the trips generated. And the finding was that the existing street network can support the potential trip generation without additional off-site transportation improvements. The 2 connections to Buckwalter Town Boulevard, full access. Staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the April 3 DRC meeting. The applicant provided a response to comments and revised site plans on April 24. Here is the site a little bit closer. The furthest tier to the right or to the east is where a stub road continues to the north. That's in accordance with the Buckwalter Parkway Access Management Plan. It is going to be built to the right-of-way line of Buckwalter Town Boulevard. In the event that this becomes a true connectivity road, all that would be required is improvements within that right-of-way to make that connection through the property. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310-3A of the UDO in assessing the application. Review criteria. Planning Commission's action, it can approve the application as submitted, approve the application with conditions, table the application, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. The applicant is here to answer any questions you may have. Town staff recommendation is we recommend approval as submitted, and I will open it up for any questions you may have.
Do we have any public comments for this one? No? Okay. Do y'all have any questions for Dan? Or if not, I'm gonna open it to the applicant. Any questions? Okay, would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening, I'm Matt Randall with Cranston Engineering. I think Dan did an excellent job kind of describing the plan. We're working with the town to satisfy all their needs. The developer is the Keith Corporation. I know there was a large acronym there, but they're very experienced, well-respected developer that develop medical office buildings throughout the low country, the state, and the region. So they really do know what they're doing, and certainly just here to answer any questions you may have specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Well, one of the things I think it was mentioned is a certain number of parking places required, but you've gone more than that for some reason, which wasn't very clear to me.
Correct. So obviously it's a medical office building, and as I mentioned, the Keith Corporation develops these. They have a proposed tenant already, very well-respected medical tenant, and the market rate is they need significantly more parking spaces. If you think about it, it's a medical office building, so not only do you have all the rooms filled with people, you have people arriving, waiting to be seen, as well as people leaving and checking out. So because they do this all the time, they have real-world experience and know exactly what their tenants are looking for and what's required for this type of facility.
And staff parking.
So I was going to say,
And the staff as well,
patients.
and as you see, we tried to center the building, so obviously the patients will be as close to the building as possible and have to have less time to move to the building, and obviously the employees will park further away, and that's part of the reason we didn't want to connect that main potential road connection through. We obviously worked with the town to provide what's required, but we felt like the less traffic we can have through the parking lot, the safer the parking lot will be for the patients.
How many above the recommended is it?
Yeah, he stated it,
So there's 189 required per your ordinance, and right now, I think we're providing 258. So it's substantially more. We did show some pervious parking along the edges to help mitigate some of that, along the wetland buffer to the north and the proposed stormwater treatment area to the west.
So all of the light colored is impervious?
Correct.
And that's 40, I just counted it up, that's 46 of the 68 additional. That's the majority of them. The only thing I have a challenge with is we have set the precedent, going by the code, of requiring frontage roads to be built to the property line. And I struggled over this one last night as I was doing a final review. The plan we're looking at does not have that frontage road going to the property. No, it does go to the property line. It's in the
Just
right of
slightly
way.
over
Okay.
the property line.
Okay. I just struggle with the fact that it doesn't pop out onto the road.
I understand that. Be aware, to the north, there is a large wetland area that if and when this road is ever built, which we've been told is many, many years into the future, if it happens, they'll have to obviously navigate the permitting for that large wetland crossing. And that's part of the reason the road is angled in that direction, is to avoid an existing stormwater pond, which was recommended by town staff. And it also lines up to a more perpendicular alignment across the wetlands to minimize that impact in the future.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
Where's that page?
Where's that page?
And where's the?
Yeah.
Come on, Dan.
The cheat sheets.
I make a motion to approve the Buckwalter Town Boulevard Medical Office Building preliminary development plans as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we are on to item number 5, Maiden Lane Development Plan Application, a request by Nathan Sturry of Sturry Engineering on behalf of the property owner Hinton Vacation Properties LLC for approval of a preliminary development plan application. Do we have any public comment on this? Okay. I think what I would like to do is hear Dan's presentation and then see if we have any feedback or questions for Dan, and then I'll address the public comments. Okay?
This is a preliminary development plan for a project called Maiden Lane. The request by Nathan Sturry of Sturry Engineering on behalf of the property owner Hinton Vacation Properties LLC for approval of a preliminary development plan. The applicant proposes a development of a 13-lot mixed-use subdivision containing 11 single-family residential lots and 2 mixed-use lots, common open space, and associated infrastructure. Both properties are zoned neighborhood general historic district and consist of approximately 3.58 acres located on the south side of Bruin Road, west of Pritchard Street. Here is the subject property. It has frontage on Pritchard Street, frontage on Bruin Road, and frontage on Maiden Lane. It's composed of the 2 parcels. You can see the parcel line bisecting them. This is an aerial of the same location and subject properties. The application, subject properties are currently vacant and located on the south side of Bruin Road and west of Pritchard Street. The applicant provided a set of site plan exhibits and site data as part of the preliminary development plan application. The project is proposed to be phased, with the first phase being constructing all of the amenities, infrastructure, and development on individual, with the first phase constructing all common amenities and infrastructure and development on individual lots being in future phases. While the proposed single-family residential lots would not require a development plan submittal prior to submitting for a building permit, a certificate of appropriateness historic district would be required, so they would have that review. Any development other than single-family residential on the mixed-use lots will require approval of a development plan and also have a certificate of appropriateness historic district. The drive going through the property is a shared asphalt drive. It's proposed to be 24 feet of asphalt within a 30-foot right-of-way. The staff report in staff report, we wrote it up based on the cross-section that was provided, which shows it going to a gravel road once it gets past the mixed-use commercial. That's not the case. What they're proposing is asphalt all the way through. So when I get to that comment, I'll tell you that that's disregarded, but I wanted to include it in there. The staff's comments on the original preliminary development plan were reviewed at the January 31st, 2024 DRC meeting. The applicant provided a response to comments and revised the site plans on March 26, 2024. Staff took those comments back to the Development Review Committee on May 1, 2024. The applicant requested to proceed to the Planning Commission without providing a second resubmittal responding to the second DRC comments. Here is the land use exhibit. A little closer up, Bruin Road is to your right. The top of the screen is Maiden Lane. The gray, well, yellow, because it would be within an easement going across one of the mixed use parcels, then it becomes a 24-foot asphalt road in itself, tying into Maiden Lane and stubbing to the property next door to it. This calls out, I don't know how well you can see it, but we are showing a 5-foot sidewalk, the 30 by 30 concrete apron as it comes in off of Bruin Road, showing the common areas that would be included in the first phase of development. And so the first phase is basically creating the road, the common areas and amenities. The utilities would be underneath the road. And what it does is it sets the lots. All of the lots are buildable lots based on dimension. And so it creates frontages for the 2 mixed use lots being proposed and the 11 residential lots. That's not much of a closer view of it. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310.3A of the UDO in assessing an application for a preliminary development plan. These are the criteria. I thought I typically have these as extra slides afterwards. Do you want me to go through the response to the criteria?
If you want to just do a synopsis of it, just a quick.
Okay. Actually what's pertinent is criteria number 1. We say the proposed site improvements do not conform to the applicable provisions provided in Article 5. The UDO administrator requires a landscape buffer to mitigate adverse impacts to incompatible land uses. This is adjacent to residential. They're showing the right-of-way that's being proposed as abutting the property line with no buffer. It's just an adjustment of the right-of-way to provide. The buffer requirement is half the distance of the building setback. So a side setback of 10 feet would require a 5-foot buffer. Rear of 20 would require a 10-foot buffer, for example. Criteria 2, it is not within a PUD. That's specific to that. Let me get to here. This is what I wanted. So I called out 1 and 4 as criteria that were not being met. This was when I was looking at the cross-section versus what's being proposed. And so the comment that we had, the finding was the proposed road and cross-section do not meet SCDOT standards. The entire proposed road must include a 24-foot asphalt drive. That is what's being proposed. So I'm striking that. They're fine with this criteria. Planning Commission has the authority to take the following action: approve as submitted, approve with conditions, table the application, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. And I will open it up for any questions. And the applicant is here.
Does anyone? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just do public comment.
Yeah.
How many do we have? Okay.
Austin Bussard.
Good evening. My name is Preston Bussard. I live at 21 Pritchard Street. That's directly across. And I guess I'm a little bit late in the game. I wish I would have been at previous submittals. But on previous submittals, certain lots were shown with garages and homes. And I'm an architect. I've been working for nearly 40 years. And in a previous position years ago, I did traditional neighborhood designs, Celebration, Florida, Baldwin Park, Florida, in Orlando. I've been to places like the Kentlands. And those are big ones. This is a small one. This is like an infill. And when we used to do those projects, we tested every lot to see if they worked. When I first saw this, it looked to me like an engineer was trying to get as many lots as he could on this particular piece of property. And I'm excited about it. You know, I think this could be great for Bluffton, but it looks like it wasn't thought out. The idea of the cove and how those work with garages. We live directly across the street. The two lots that are on Pritchard with the cove, I can't see how anyone could build there. So why isn't that just green space? Especially with the development now, they're going to redo Pritchard and they're going to put new sidewalks and curbs. So, and also the trees and how they're affected. There's a document that was submitted earlier that showed the number of trees, and we were concerned on how many of the live oaks were going to be destroyed. So I wanted to just comment that I think there's a perfect and a great opportunity for Bluffton to do something here. And I don't think the way this plan was created, it's really met that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Would the applicant like to speak towards the project?
Sure.
We also will probably have questions for you. Please state your name for the record.
Nathan Sturry Engineering. I'm the civil engineer on the project. Here to answer any questions you guys may have.
Mark,
I have a question for Dan before.
you have a question for Dan? Okay.
Did I hear you correctly that the applicant didn't submit any responses to the what?
Second.
To the second round of JRC comments, they requested to come to the next Billable Planning Commission. And
We have addressed all of Dan's comments.
Can I follow up to that? Yeah, that was my question. What were the comments that were not addressed? Was it the pavement? The paved road? Was that
Just minor ones that can be, typically it's something that gets resolved at final development plan submittal. Then the only reason I included it, going the wrong way. The only reason that they were included as conditions here was so that this is the opportunity to get them as conditions of approval, since we didn't get a resubmittal that addressed them. Except for number one is a UDO section 537B2 is something that's not being met, and that would have to be adjusted. But I would say 2, 3, 4, and 5 that you're looking at are all resolvable, and we'll see that at the final development plan submittal.
Thank you.
I like to echo the public comment that was just made, and I feel the same way, that the idea is sound, but it just feels like we're cramming so much into this. It would feel like more green space, protecting more trees would be my ideal wish for. And I haven't seen that through the couple discussions that we've had.
Sure, and we have laid out the plan with homes on it. We brought some for discussion, if you guys are curious. We have Pat Mason here, who is going to build the homes once they're sold. All lots are buildable. Maybe not everyone has a garage. Some are carriage houses or not cottages. Or, this is a challenging site with a drainage easement. We have to stay 30 foot off the bank. The lots were laid out around the trees specifically to try to save the larger ones we could. We've worked with stormwater through this process to try to make sure that we're protecting the cove as much as possible. We did a slope stabilization analysis on that cove. We have met with all the stormwater suppliers to make sure that the improvements we are proposing are not going to impact the cove. And I think we have put a lot of thought into this current layout that's there. More than what you're seeing, I guess.
I do have the tree exhibits as slides if you want.
Yeah, could you show those? I think just to have them on the screen would be helpful.
And these trees really aren't in the best condition if you go to the site. It's not too many big, grand, beautiful oaks.
Do you have an arborist report on that?
We have been working with an arborist. We don't have an actual report yet. We tried to.
I don't mean to be rude, but I'm gonna be rude.
That can be a
Can't
condition.
consider it if we don't have it in writing.
Okay.
So you telling us that the trees are not in good shape? I can't go by that. It's the same thing I had to deal with my property over here. I had to get a tree guy, I had to get an arborist to determine that they were. So we can't, for purposes of tonight, we can't go, okay, this 36 inch and this are gonna go down because they're not in good shape, because we don't know that they're not in good shape. So,
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
We attempted multiple times to meet with Jordan on site with our arborist to discuss the trees. And, we could never make it happen for scheduling or any other reason besides that. I got you.
I have a question with the lot sizes. You said you did test fits of different housing types. Which housing types did you think would fit on on some of these smaller lots? There seemed to be very challenging.
Yeah, those were, the smaller cottage type home. I don't have the code in front of me to know the very specific type, but we're not proposing anything for each lot. That's for the end user to determine with an architect.
Sure. I know, I just want to make sure that they're buildable with the building standards, the different building types that we have in the historic district, and knowing that the setbacks are specific to that building type. So I just want to make sure that that it can be built.
Sure.
With knowing too, that the driveway has to be considered in that width, because you can't park in front of the building, you have to park behind it.
What would be the best way to demonstrate that to you? Could we give you handouts that show this, or we?
I just want to make sure that, I'm just telling you, I mean, you can develop lots, but I just want, as a courtesy, to say, make sure that these are buildable, because it does look like what public comment was, that you're putting a lot of lots, a small space, and are they really buildable? And some of the shapes just make it a little more challenging, some of these, especially with the bank.
Well, we feel confident that, these are buildable lots based on the layouts we've done, and whatever way we need to show the planning commission that.
There was one document that looked like with the green boxes on it. Are those supposed to depict garages or cottage homes?
That is an old plan. I'm not sure why that got included. I would disregard.
Okay.
He was just doing that as like a representation of a main building and an accessory building, just to show that what could fit. Because in historic district, accessory buildings can be 5 feet off the setbacks, but your main building has a building type.
Oh, here it is.
And so it has different setbacks depending on the type of building it is.
And working through the development process with Dan and his guys, they recommended to leave structures off from next to middle. Just to.
Because we're not approving that. We just want to make sure that these are actual buildable lots.
Sure.
And not crammed. Do what?
Can I make a comment towards that?
Absolutely.
I think part of our charge too in 574 of the UDO is that we have to make sure they're buildable, and I don't think we have nearly enough information to determine that. I'm pretty disappointed that we don't have any exhibits showing the full tree and topography survey underneath your proposed lot lines. There's some trees, and there's some, like, none of them are on the exact same plan, but if you look at the topography of the cove and the top of Bank, lot 11 mixed use is virtually unbuildable unless you're building in the cove. And there's more to that, like there's a 46-inch live oak, there's 36-inch live oaks towards the front of some lots. Those live oaks that are towards the front of the lot make it impossible for you to meet the build-to requirement for the historic district. You have to be within 10 to 20 feet of the front property line, depending on the building type. So to me, the only way to build on lot 4 the only possible way to do that is to not either remove the live oak or to be non-compliant with the UDO. So to me, that's a non-buildable lot until we know the health of that tree.
Like a lot 11, because it's too narrow.
Lot 11 is very, very small, from the top of Bank to the property line on the access easement.
Just with your front build to lines, what you're
With that
saying.
too, I mean, and then I have concerns with lots 6 and 7, there's a 46-inch live oak between them, the drip line takes up nearly the entire buildable area, so to me, that's not a great spot to have two 55-foot wide lots where you're gonna have driveway that goes over that root system, or you're going to build a house on top of it.
Was there, I'm sorry to interrupt, a specific number of lots that the owner was trying to hit? Is this why there are so many?
No, so we've been, this is probably the fourth plan we've submitted to Dan on this piece. We have been trying to navigate through all the open space requirements, easements we have to get around, trying to plan around these trees, kind of to address the buffering. We're proposing a fence to try to screen the adjacent properties the best we can. We kept open space along that area the best we can. We attempted to reach out to Troy for 26, work with him. That didn't really go anywhere. Question?
More just a statement. I'm not convinced that at least 6 of these are even buildable with taking the tree canopies into consideration and the fact that you have to hit a front build to. I made my own overlay of your plans on top of each other because there's nothing submitted that shows your layout on top of the topography and the trees all together. So to me, it's just not, the comments that were made at DRC, there were several, the trees to me were not addressed. I don't see how having some large live oaks either right along the property line of a 55-foot wide lot or at the very front of a property line, like, I don't know how anything has been designed around the existing tree canopy. It doesn't appear to me that we're placing any of the green spaces around the large live oaks. It's just over what's less buildable from a geometric standpoint where you have your green spaces. I just don't think it's enough information for us to be confident that you respected the tree canopies and that you have, that all of these lots are actually buildable.
Thank you for putting that much more eloquently than the thought in my head, which was the only way you can develop these is by clear cutting the land.
Correct.
I've got a question. I'd like to echo the concern on the trees and the tree canopy, and I believe the tree canopy requirement, Dan, is it 75% per lot?
When they come in, they'll have to maintain 75% of a canopy. That does not count the roof.
Okay, so 75% of the lot, not including the roof, has to be maintained as canopy.
That's the canopy.
Okay, I just want that clarification. Thank you. My other concern and question for you, Nathan, is stormwater. How is stormwater going to be addressed? I think I saw some boxes on one of the plans.
Sure, so we took an updated plan to Watershed, we sat down with them, they were happy with our design. We're basically gonna capture everything in underground detention systems and discharge it between maybe lots 5 and 6, where there's an existing natural depression there that we're able to kind of utilize as an outfall.
We'll follow it all there and drop it into the cove.
So it's going to go into the soil.
It will go our best to perk it down into the soil. We got really good sands, low groundwater, super high perk rates. And we're gonna do an impermeable liner along the cove to make sure no lateral flow goes out towards the bank. It's all forced to go inwards towards the property. Down.
The overflow is coming back into the property.
No, overflow
Not into
goes,
the cove.
it goes to the cove.
Okay, overflow does go into the cove. Okay.
Which it does in its pre-development state.
Thank you.
And in terms of lot 11, I know that's a big concern you guys have had. We have met with stormwater on site. The way the cove jumps up here with this little arm, that's actually an artificial kind of bank. Someone went back there and stole some dirt. And so they have agreed, based on the trees that are back there, that we would be okay to fill that void.
Well, I think the concern still is even if you filled it, how do you get back there and have the building, meet the building requirements that you're supposed to meet as per the UDO historic district? So, that's why it's challenging.
Sure. Seems to me you guys want to see our plan laid out with homes on it.
You have anything to,
Can
you
we-
said
can we-
you said you had something.
We have a handout.
Is that okay that, just for discussion or no?
Staff is not, you haven't had a chance to look at
I just wanted to,
We purposely did not submit that,
Okay.
based on recommendations.
Nathan, the concerns, and I share a lot of what Lydia said and the other commissioners have said. The concerns are, it's, in a nutshell, it's too much on too little.
Well, I
We're
agree.
risking the trees, we're risking the cove. I know it's not an OCRM line there, but it is a cove into the May River. There are no assurances that those trees are gonna be protected if we approve this infrastructure and then you guys start selling lots. And so the next step is, you guys start selling lots, and these new homeowners come in, new property owners come in to the town and say, okay, I wanna build my house on this lot, and somebody in town says you can't do it because there's a 46-inch live oak that covers 3/4 of the lot. And then they get mad at the town, they get mad at you, they get mad at us, because we didn't do our due diligence, and that's the concern here. We don't wanna tell people no, but
You know, to answer Amanda's question earlier, which I don't think I answered, we did not have a set number of lots we were aiming for. We started out with probably 19 and just working through the process, we got down to this number, which we thought was fully compliant with the UDO standards, lot width, depth. We laid out the setbacks, came up with buildable areas. They all seem reasonable. We did meet with an arborist. I know you can't, it doesn't matter because we don't have a report for it, but we did as much due diligence as we could to get around those trees. The highest cluster of live oaks that are really the nicest trees on the property are in the park area that we have the green triangle in the top. That is being undisturbed. We're not touching that land, and it's a big cluster of probably 6 or 7 nice live oaks.
okay. Does anyone have any other, thoughts, questions? I wanna take a temperature.
I mean, we live in a unique community. Bluffton's a very unique town. And this site has a lot of demands on it, trees being the big one, drainage. I think more parts of the equation need to be brought in to get a better layout and site count. I think it's too many sites. I think you need to get everything there, including a tree assessment.
Yeah, arborist.
A tree assessment, not just an arborist report, a tree assessment on what the trees are gonna do after development. And that's important as well. I know we can't require that, but to do this properly, to make this a special, unique community within Bluffton, I think all those pieces need to be brought together to make this a better project. Because right now, I don't think it's a project that's appropriate for Old Town Bluffton.
Well, I guess that said, I think we'll table it until we can resubmit, and address all your concerns. One question I hope you guys can answer, or somebody can give me an answer, is if we're fully compliant with UDO standards and we're still being told it's too much on too little, how do we quantify that number of what we can put here?
The UDO specifically says we need to design around significant trees, so that's a big piece of it. That's not compliant with the UDO standards presently unless you can prove that the significant trees that are in the middle of the lots are unhealthy and need to be removed. It also talks about reducing fill, so needing to understand what your buildable area is with the cove. There are several lots that without filling in a portion of the cove, there is very little you're going to be able to build on that lot. So for me, those two things right now are not compliant with the UDO. I don't think that this plan illustrates that they're buildable. That's another piece that we're charged with, is ensuring that what we're approving is buildable. I don't have enough information to review that at this point. From the overlays that I've taken from what you've submitted, I have concerns about at least 6 of the 12 lots that y'all have, 13 lots. Pretty major concerns, especially with the trees. And I think for me, it would help to see the tree and topo with all of the topo lines underneath your lot layout, and to see what you would anticipate, some type of test fit of a buildable area that can illustrate that what you have proposed is possible to meet front build twos, to meet setbacks with the UDO, because I don't think that what we have right now will be compliant once all of that information is presented.
Yeah, I mean, to put it succinctly, I'm prepared to, if this comes up for a vote, to deny it, and that's gonna put you back to square one. So, I mean, it's always the applicant's decision, but they would have to withdraw it if that's the case.
Can he asked to
We
table
can't
it.
table, we table.
I mean, can we table it knowing that they would be compliant with that?
Y'all have it in your discretion to table this until, either the next meeting or a future meeting, once they're able to provide the adequate information. But the applicant has said that they're willing to do that and has recommended that it be done rather than withdraw or have it go for an actual vote at this point.
The thing is, what we're looking at is going to be so far apart from what is presented here tonight that I feel it needs to go back to DRC. I don't feel it needs to come.
Assuming we can't prove that these are buildable lots.
So I just want to know options so that the applicant is very clear. If we deny it tonight, it takes us a year, right, that they have to wait?
And they can resubmit, I believe. Yeah.
Because it's not through, okay. If they table it, it just does what?
Tabling it is a decision that y'all have in your power, which will basically say, we're not going to make a decision tonight. We want you to come back with more information, present to us again, and we'll reconsider this application with that additional material, those supplemental materials that you had discussed and that you had said that you would need to be able to make a decision on the criteria. Because right now, it seems that the application is insufficient for y'all to make that decision, or any decision other than denial.
So is there because I hear different words going back and forth, withdrawal, is there a withdrawal, and what is that?
So withdrawing it
That would
is
have been
really just
prior.
from consideration tonight, saying we'd like to withdraw it so that we can return and not lose our space, not lose our place in line, not lose the time that we've already committed to this process, keep the application moving forward, but give them the ability to bring it back to you versus when it's tabled, you really have the ability to bring it back. It's your responsibility to put it back.
I guess in that case, we'll withdraw, assuming we're not going to lose any on DRC or resubmit.
You first.
From our perspective, I think that that's, it certainly.
Hold on a second. What was the statement you just asked?
No conditions.
He was just saying he would withdraw because,
We would withdraw to provide the documents that are being requested by planning commission and resubmit to DRC.
I think what they're wanting to do is withdraw this application from further consideration tonight so that they can come back and bring it before DRC and planning commission at a later date. And that way they can control the schedule more so than planning commission. Yes.
One thing a suggestion, obviously. I've seen this in DRC, we've seen this before. It's not changed enough to address Commissioner DePauw's issues, whether the trees, the fill, and so forth. My hope would be that when you do come back, it's going to better address those issues, because it doesn't feel, we feel like we've talked about a number of these things before. So this may not be the first time. I want to make sure Commissioner DePauw's concerns are fully addressed.
but with withdrawing it too, it goes back to DRC first.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that was clear, just because obviously when the plan changes, everyone needs an opportunity to look at it. Because that makes changes to water sewer, that makes changes to stormwater. So, there's a lot of, it's a domino effect when you start changing things.
That would make us as a commission feel better that it's vetted before it comes back versus tabling, then that wouldn't necessarily do that.
And I would make a suggestion, and this is just a suggestion. Based on Commissioner DePauw's comments, Commissioner Brock's comments tonight, it might be a good idea to see if because they're more of an expert in these matters than I am, it might not be a bad idea to have a sit down and get their feedback and input before you redraw everything.
Yeah, absolutely. They're willing to
If if y'all are willing to do that.
Turn up people's services.
Because we've done
We've
that
done
with
it
developments
before,
before, and it's worked.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anyway, you can set that up with the town and coordinate all that.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ready for the last one, which is kind of three things, but
The other Dan Frazier's coming.
the other Dan
Yes,
Frazier's coming.
the taller one.
Consideration of ordinances related to property commonly referred to as university investments, 65.592 acres. So Dan, no, Kevin, who wants to do it? Kevin? It's a workshop item. No vote. So if you want to let us know what's going on.
Okay, good evening again, Planning Commission. We are here for, this is a public workshop for the University Investments property, approximately 65 acres, more or less on the southwest corner of Buckwalter Parkway, Lake Point Drive.
Excuse me,
Ladies.
ladies. Mr. Eichert's presenting, please hold your comments till later, out in the hall if you need to. Okay.
Thank you.
So we are here for a 100% annexation request for University Investments in Grandy Oaks to LLC, as stated for the 65.592 acres located at Buckwalter Parkway and Lake Point Drive. And this is west of the retreat at Grandy Oaks. This application came in front of Town Council December 12th of last year. They did vote to accept or the intent of annexation, and they did forego sending this to the negotiating committee. So with this annexation request, we do have, there's a total of 3 items that are listed for the workshop portion of it. However, all of the applications as they continue to move forward will be moving forward concurrently. So that does include the comprehensive plan, future land use map, concept plan, development agreement, annexation. I think there's one other in there as well. So of the 65.5 acres, 27.4 is uplands, 38 is wetlands. As of right now, and you can see on the vicinity map here in the darker shaded gray area, that's the property. There is, the only use that's listed on there right now is a cell tower. That has been there for some years. Again, from an aerial standpoint, you can see the areas highlighted in yellow that the applicant is wishing to annex into the town. From the zoning map, so the zoning map would be amended to include these portions. So some quick background information. The properties are currently in the Grandy Oaks PUD in the county, and I do have a map of that here to help visualize that. And it has that village commercial land use tract. It is somewhat similar to the Buckwalter Commons land use tract that we have right now. So this area, let me just get to, let's see if I have a better map here. I don't, I lied. Going the wrong way. It's over. Sorry. This area had always kind of been contemplated as for the commercial uses. If you, I don't have a copy of it in front of me, but our growth framework map does call for the town center, which is the most intense designation that we have for the nodes. So it is an appropriate type use of uses in this area. Now you might notice that there is a discrepancy in upland acres that's listed on there versus the total of 32 acres of commercial development rights that they're requesting. And the reason for that is for some flexibility, because it has been some time since a wetlands delineation has happened for the property. So wetlands could have increased, they could have decreased. You know, it's a live, living thing. So this gives the applicant the opportunity to have the flexibility that they need to make sure that they are meeting their needs of the uplands and the actual development rights. The applicant is proposing that they create a new land use tract, and that's the Grandy Oaks. And one of the reasons behind this is that previous iterations of this plan has come in front of town council since 2020. And town council, I think I have it in the staff report, where it came forward and town council said, listen, we need you to come back with more properties. So they did that. When they came back with more properties, they had issues with uses that were listed in Buckwalter Commons that they didn't feel was appropriate. That's where town council suggested that they created a land use tract, very similar to what we did with St. Gregory the Great a couple of years ago, where we created the St. Gregory the Great land use tract. It was able to provide restrictions on uses or prohibit certain uses. So that's what the applicant has done based off of town council's direction, is to create this land use tract and then limit certain uses. And that was one of your attachments that you had. It is a lot of information here. So I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to look through this, but one of the big intents, number one, was that town council, they don't want to upzone. And upzone to allow for more intense uses. So the applicant has done that. They have limited uses. They've actually downzoned some of the proposed uses that are currently allowed versus what's allowed in the Buckwalter Commons versus what they're proposing in their development. So that was a good thing. This table, in essence, would then be part of their specific uses of what would be allowed. One of the big items that we have in here is that there's no additional residential dwelling units.
1 second here.
So, and the reason for that is we require that if there's any new or amended PUD that includes a residential component to it, you're required 20% to be workforce housing. So the applicant, while the applicant has residential dwelling units in Buckwalter currently, they are not proposing any additional residential dwelling units. Now, in that same breath, in the future, if the applicant decided to have some type of residential component in this area, they are allowed to bring units in to do that. So there's no new units being proposed this evening. You good?
What that means is if the owner has, stored or unused RDUs, he could reassign them here.
Potentially, yes.
So we could approve this and he could turn around and turn the whole thing into single-family housing.
Or apartments.
I'm not saying that would happen, but you know our concern with this, and you're going to meet a greater concern at council.
While that is correct, these units already exist, so they're already on the books. So the applicant is not asking for any additional units. So they're already accounted for. So if they're placed, what's that?
Just the location.
Just the location, yes, correct. It's the location of where they would go. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there for you. And if that's a concern, this is a workshop. So it's an opportunity for you to speak to the applicant about that.
Would the applicant be able to tell us how many RDUs he or she has available?
Well, I can tell you that.
You can tell us that.
And it doesn't matter whether it's the applicant has it, it's the total that are floating in Buckwalter.
So University Investment Holdings has 296 residential dwelling units. That's
already
the
been
remaining overall, correct.
Sounds like an apartment complex.
We're not speculating.
We're just asking questions.
So part of this entire process includes an amendment to the concept plan. This is the Buckwalter concept plan. And what I've done is I've kind of highlighted some of the areas here. You can see with the hash mark here. This is that inclusion of land into the Buckwalter PUD, and it would have a Grandy Oaks land use track to it. And while that right now it's just listed as red, we would probably have a hash mark of some sort on there just to delineate that portion of use there.
Kevin, question, back to map again. The two white spaces that are on either side of the leftmost Grandy Oaks Common, are they owned by the same owner, or is that somebody else?
I believe so, and I think that's something that they can confirm.
Okay.
Also, part of that concept plan, and let me just go back real quick. You can see we have this table up here, the density and acreage summary. I've blown it up here so that way you can see a little bit better where we've included that Grandy Oaks Commons land use tract. Total acreage is, you can see 65, dwelling units, again, 0. And then what we have here is the acreage summary where Grandy Oaks Common, a total of 65 acres, 27 upland, and then 38 wetlands. So those are the proposed amendments to that concept plan.
Question again, you mentioned before the flexibility to go to 32, would that replace the 27?
Well, as of right now, that's what the upland acreage is. So it could change. I think that if something were to happen, we could probably do I don't even know if we'd need to do an amendment to the concept plan. My only concern with doing that is if we started looking at every other one where, again, it fluctuates, then we're trying to change this plan nonstop. From a process standpoint, again, we're here this evening. This is the workshop, and this would come back to you for a public hearing and then ultimately to town council for a first and second reading. Again, workshop, no vote this evening. Answered some of your questions. If you have some more, happy to answer them. Also, the applicant is here. We got them all. So, Mr. Reed, Mr. Long, and Mr. Hammett could probably answer any of the questions you may have.
Would any of the applicants like to speak to this project? Summary from your view. What are y'all trying to do?
Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Long. I'm with Thomas and Hutton here representing the applicant. I would like to just point out and kind of go back a little bit through the history. So I think it was November of 2020 when we initially came in with about 13 acres. So the applicant actually owns, let me come back to this map. So the applicant actually owns land in Buckwalter adjacent to Bluffton Parkway and the Buckwalter Parkway, everything that is in Buckwalter right now. The Grandy Oaks PUD was in Beaufort County and has been 25 plus years, the land uses that are there. So as we came to the town with the first initial use, the whole purpose was to create contiguous property with the same set of rules, right? Because some of it's in the county, some of it's in the town of Bluffton. So what the town said there was, well, why don't you come back to us because they were looking at purchasing a few of these properties adjacent, why don't you go ahead and bring it all in at one time? So then we came back in November of 22 with that plan. A couple of concerns that they had there was, one, there was a property adjacent to Hampton Lake, and so that's this one there, parcel C to the west there. They were concerned with that because the residents in Hampton Lake had, voiced some issues with development next door, right? So they removed that piece from the new annexation, which is what we're discussing tonight. The second thing was, in Grandy Oaks, they had rights to about 53 residential dwelling units if they developed that in Beaufort County, right? So they initially were trying to bring in that property and go ahead and bring in the 53 units along with that. The town expressed concern about the residential, so that's why that went to 0 new residential as well. So we have worked with the town. We feel like we've addressed their concerns. I think that's partly why they voted to not send it to the negotiating committee at this point, because we have listened to what they've said and we're back before you tonight. Obviously there's no vote tonight, but we're here to address any questions, after this step. Once it's annexed and rezoned, then we'll start planning the property, which everything will come back before you for initial master plan, development permits, et cetera, so.
What is the access to this property?
There are various access points to the property. We're following the access management plan that's along the Bluffton Parkway. So you have Innovation Drive. I believe there's one more to the west that aligns with the, I forget which apartment complex it is.
The L Apartments, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct, Mystic Bluff.
This is the L right here.
Right, so there's 3 accesses along, one is limited, the middle one's limited, and the 2 outer ones are full. There's also some interconnectivity that has always been planned in the Grandy Oaks PUD for connections for Innovation Drive to come down. There was an agreement with the town about Innovation Drive connecting in down through Grandy Oaks, so.
Grandy Oaks, like the neighborhood or the commercial?
It actually
Or the-
does line up with, you can see Innovation Drive there coming from Buckwalter Place.
That's always been in the
And it
plan?
comes down to into that neighborhood, yes.
Yeah, but
The
that's,
town actually owns that right of way for Innovation.
It is, but but if it's always been there, there's nothing they can do about it. It's always been in the
Well,
master plan,
interconnectivity
right?
is something that the town, the county, everyone wants to keep people off the main roads if they're coming to services or without getting back on the Buckwalter Parkway or the Bluffton Parkway. If residents from down there can just drive up and go to whatever commercial services may be here, I think that's a good thing for everyone.
well, the county hasn't done the best job with the interconnectivity on these parcels or popping Old Miller Road through. So the question related to that is this development willing to be committed to putting an access in on? 'Cause
That
that's
is
the only
something
other
that is, again, it's in those conceptual phases, but that is something that would be desired, yes. Internal connectivity.
That gets you the interconnectivity.
Yeah, with innovation and even maybe one more access to Lake Point, yes. Yes, sir.
Would he be willing to pave Old Miller Road through? Worth a shot. Not even in the
Oh, Old
town.
Miller Road would be,
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
The public comment for that would be.
that would be outdoor.
If I could, just based off of that comment right there, something that we can work with the applicant is on that concept plan is to show access points, which we actually do for quite a few other locations. So you can see like where we have like arrows that are coming through, those are access points. We can work to update that concept plan in order to show potential access points.
I just hate to see it all get developed and then those 1,000 people that live in Sandy Point, Edgefield, all that, still only have one entrance.
Totally agree. And again, the next step would be initial master plan, once this process is complete, where it will be back before Planning Commission and the council. But interconnectivity is something that the applicant has expressed that they desire as well.
Does the future Bluffton Parkway do anything to this?
It's not through this.
The realignment of 5B, that does
Stop
potentially.
calling 5B people.
It does potentially swing through a portion of this property.
Not what's getting annexed.
Not the
Not the
annexation.
annexation.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, yes. It doesn't touch the annexation property, no.
I have a couple of questions. First one is for Kevin. The commercial that we would be giving them if they annex it in, would there be an ability to transfer that out of there and to somewhere else or can that be locked in?
That can be locked in, if that's something that Planning Commission would recommend to Town Council. It is something similar that we did with St. Gregory the Great, where they were not allowed to move, because if you remember with St. Gregory the Great, they had, I believe it was about 150 residential dwelling units assigned to them, but the intent was that they were not allowed to move those out of the St. Gregory tract. So if you have some concerns, that is something that, we can work with the applicant as this is moving forward, and that could be one of those conditions as part of that development agreement.
Well, I I would say that's something, I don't know the rest of planning commission, but that's something we want this to be a commercial node, right? Theoretically, although I don't think it would happen, theoretically, you could transfer 296 RDUs in there, build a neighborhood, and transfer the commercial out somewhere else. So I think if we can keep the commercial locked into it, that would be good. I don't have a huge problem with the RDUs getting transferred in there, because if you look at the current use, if the developer tomorrow says, I'm not gonna annex, we can go ahead and build houses there now. Personally, I'd rather see,
Us work together.
yeah, us work together, us get a commercial node, maybe with some promenade type, live, work, play type of thing. And then, don't build any more apartments.
Why don't you come up?
Those were my thoughts on it.
And I was gonna ask what the applicant's intentions are. No, please.
He was just asking what your intentions were.
I was gonna
for the
ask what
property.
your intentions are before Commissioner Wetmore said that.
State your name for the record and
I'm
people
John
out there.
Reed, one of the owners, and yes, there's 296 units, but y'all have already approved 200 of them, so it's really only 96 units left over.
Yeah, but you're resourceful, you could find more than that.
So, right now, there's only 96 that, unless something changes, that, we don't get to build the ones we've got approved, but we're trying to get those built right now, so there'll only be 96. And hopefully we build something like the promenade, I don't know whether it be freestanding townhouses or units above retail and so forth. I cannot tell you exactly what we're gonna do. We worked for years trying to get a mixed use. And something else happened. About a month or so ago, we had a non-disclosure agreement about the terms of it, but it's a big medical facility wants to do business there. And we would welcome another major medical facility, because that's one of the biggest problems with this area. People can't get medical facilities and so forth. So I can't tell you for sure what's going to happen, but we do have.
You're open.
We're open. It's either going to be right now big mixed use or a medical. But truth of the matter is, it'll probably be a medical facility and a mixed use center. But that's the best I can do right now.
Depends on time.
Priorities. That's one of our priorities, to get more medical, so.
Do you have questions for me anymore?
Everybody else? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Richardson?
If I may, just because
Sure.
understandably, this is a workshop, so there's a lot more flexibility in the discussion on what y'all are talking about. What's being requested here is a combination of things, from annexation to the concept plan amendments, the development agreement amendments. None of those can be based off of what may happen. The decisions can be based off what may happen with the property, because you all know these development agreements are going to last for decades longer. And so there can be all sorts of changes of what to be expected. You have a lot of flexibility as to what you want to do or what sort of restrictions you could place on the use of residential in that area. If you wanted to incorporate that 20% affordable housing component, I think because this is, because they are coming in, this isn't a by right HUD application, this is a annexation, this is an attempt to come in. I think that you can. This is a workshop, so it's one of those things where you can discuss any residential that comes into that planning tract. Would require 20% affordable housing to be consistent with what town council has stated again and again and again. Further, we've had some issues along the parkway with the management plan and whether developers are going to comply with the management plan. So I would recommend that as part of this, that you be very clear that compliance with the Bluffton access or the Parkway Access Management Plan, and that the concept plan be shown to include the access points in the road frontage to the extent that you think it's appropriate. Again, because it's a workshop, I'm going a little bit off the cuff here, but I'm just trying to think of what some of the problems that we faced in the past in the areas were when looking back at the concept plans and what should be addressed this time as we're making amendments to it and bringing in new area. And now that since the applicant's here, and they've already expressed a willingness to work with the access management plan, I can't imagine it'd be an issue to show the road or to incorporate the access management plan in the explicit language of the agreement's amendment. And then I think you can certainly discuss any sort of residential caps or affordable housing percentages as well. So just want to bring that up to y'all to try to stave off some, maybe some concerns that can come up later when we're actually having a vote on it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, anything further?
I like this.
Oh, sure.
Respond again to. On the 20% affordable housing, we offered that to begin with, when we were bringing in the 53 units. And we were fairly, I wouldn't say instructed, but, encouraged by the council, not to bring any units in, not to bring any of the units in. So that's, we're not bringing any new units in, but we had agreed to do that if we were. So when we left the 53 units out, we didn't agree to the existing 90-something units are not, they're already in there. So we hope we don't have to address that again, because we already addressed it and was told not to do that. Okay?
Thank you.
One other question, Ms. Richardson. Since you're saying if there's other things that we want to consider, this is not considered a highway corridor, is that correct?
No.
Could we talk about architecture? Or no?
Nope.
I believe under the Buckwalter Development Agreement, those parkways are exempt from highway corridor overlay district.
Okay.
It would be, I guess in theory, you could do, because we're going to have to amend the development agreement to make those subject to it. I think it would be this is just a practical matter, and I'm looking at staff over here and working with staff. I would think it would add a level of complexity to have to, okay, which ones do we have to do highway corridor on, which ones do we not?
It's weird anyways, because this property is not close enough to a corridor to fall within the distance.
That's right, because you do have that large, I think you have, what, 100-foot easement that's right off the side of it.
Well, and plus he owns the property in between it and the parkway.
Good point.
I mean, it's 150 feet, I think, is what HCFD is, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion of anything tonight?
I move that we don't make a motion. I move for adjournment.
A second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.